But we're going to put all that aside for now until we unbury that later to talk about Menlo Meditations Podcast. Got it. Menlo Meditations Podcast. Menlo Meditations Podcast. How's it going? Mark here, and today we have Adam. He's one of our speakers that speaks a lot to our online church, as well as our young adults pastor. Yeah. But we're here today to talk about the Menlo Meditations Podcast. So we just wrapped week 3, Adam. What are some highlights from that week?
Yeah. Well, I have been listening to all the podcasts on half speed.
Oh.
And so if you haven't done that, that would be my number one highlight. There's nothing like listening to Matt Stefan talk at slurred speech. It's beautiful. Man, this week is so good. Talking about joy. Yeah. And there are so many nuggets in the meditations this week. And a few of them that I'll point out is I remember Mary was talking about, she starts off by saying, locate yourself.
Yes, that's good.
That so much is in that phrase alone. And it just made me reflect on when it comes to joy, how often the reason I'm not experiencing joy is because I'm not here, I'm somewhere else, right?
That's really
good. Like I'm in the future saying like, when I get this, when I've achieved this, then I can have joy. And even just that orienting question of locate yourself. Where are you? Oh, I'm not here, I'm there. I'm stuck in the past and I'm thinking about all the mistakes I made last week. Yeah. That's a part of why I'm not joyful. So, man, that was a huge highlight of like, what if we start our day or just throughout the day would ask ourselves, locate yourself.
Absolutely.
Are you here?
And that's such a big part of Advent is, I mean, it's a season of preparation. And in order to prepare, you kind of have to be present because you're preparing for something that's to come.
That's
so
interesting.
If you're off in a different place and you can't really sit there and be with God in expectation for the baby to come, then that whole preparation could be amiss.
Yes, totally. Yeah. That's a great point. And locate yourself is another way to say, like, are you aware? Like, are you aware of whether you're present or somewhere else? Also, Brooke had a phrase, deep well of joy.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
And then I love that metaphor and the imagery. It's a little spooky because a lot of horror movies take place in a well.
Didn't think about that, but thank you.
Yeah, that's welcome to my mind. You invited me on this podcast, this thing. But, a well, you sort of get this metaphor of just endless. You can constantly dip down in and something's going to come out. Right. And I think that's a big problem when we think about happiness. There's just like, well, I've got to have this, or if I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough things that I love at my job or whatever it is. And it's not a deep well. It's like, oh, I'm losing, but thinking of God as this endless supply of abundance. I just thought it was beautiful.
That's great.
So, yeah.
I love that a lot. And I also love when Matt was talking about how, I think he said the result of a life lived close to joy. And that is the result of a life lived close to God is joy.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, dude, I totally. And then right before that, he said, he just reminded us that we have a choice on whether we draw near to God, on how close we are to God. And I love that because often we'll say in church, and I believe it's true, like joy is a choice. It's ultimately on us to choose each day how close we want to be to God. And I thought that was great.
Yeah. So Adam, as we wrap week 3, what would be one can't miss episode for those that might be busy, even though we do recommend listening to this? I mean, they're short 2 to 3 minute things that you can listen to right in the morning. That's their purpose and that's how they were designed. But let's say a person is like, I need to hear something about joy. What episode from this week would you recommend?
Yeah, well, I would recommend day 5, which is my own. No, I'm kidding. No, I would say the 4th day of this week, which was Brooke's second. She did 2 this week. Yeah. And she talked about lack. And I love that word so much. Lack is a word in certain translations is used in Psalm 23. Yeah. And she just risks for a while of like naming some realities a lot of us come into a morning thinking of. And she mentions even like, have you already checked your Instagram feed? Have you already been scrolling the news? All that kind of stuff. So I think that's what I want to highlight. Like you should listen to that, because I do feel like lack versus abundance is one of our biggest issues in our culture right now. Of we all, by looking at social media or comparing, we're very aware, I don't have what they have.
Right.
Both skills, like, I see your Instagram feed and I'm like, man, you're so much better than me at everything, or whatever it is. But, like we live in a state of like lack. And that's where a lot of our, at least for me, I guess I should speak for myself, a lot of my dissonance, frustration comes from. And then to turn that to like the abundance of God. So love that episode.
Yeah. And I think when we're talking about that, just looking at it from maybe just one step removed from the spiritual self-aware side, like if we're just going into Christmas and thinking, I want these gifts, I can't buy these gifts, or I wish I could do this for my family, or, this year we are not able to do this. And so it's just such an applicable thing that I feel like most everyone is dealing with.
Dude, great. I didn't even think about that in light of Christmas, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like Christmas is this great juxtaposition of abundance and lack, and like we're even as a kid, I remember you're very aware. Like I'm happy with this bike I got until I see my friend who got a Nintendo 64.
Yeah,
and my parents didn't allow me to get that. But that's a great point. Like, yes, we want to fill ourselves up, and we try to fill it with material things, with Christmas warm fuzzies. So yeah, that's a great point.
Okay. Well, Adam, I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
As a speaker, you're tasked to prepare, 4 weeks of content material, deep meditations for other people to share. And that's a deeply personal thing. And so looking at this week, when you're talking about joy, was there anything as you were preparing that stuck out to you, or did it make your mindset about Advent in total a little bit different? Or I just want to talk about that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think the benefit of preparing these is, the point of us doing these meditations is just to create a little space for all of us to slow down 2 or 3 minutes. But in preparing whatever one I'm going to do for the week, it's like that's extended to like 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. So it's like I'm getting just a big slowdown time. And so as I was meditating on joy, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me is how much I personally, I'm not going to say you or anybody else listening, but me personally, as much as I've learned about joy over the years and I believe in God and his abundance, how much still I'm so reliant on the externals to bring me some kind of happiness and peace within. And so as I was just meditating on this, one of the things I was reading said the phrase, joy is there no matter what. Like regardless of external circumstances, joy is possible. But in some seasons, you may have to seek it out like a hidden treasure. In some seasons, when your relationships are good, sun is shining, and you're in Hawaii, it's pretty easy to find. It's like, oh, yeah, I can experience it pretty easy. But there's some seasons, things are going to be dark and hard. And those seasons is still possible because joy is not reliant on externals. But that's going to take some intentionality, seeking out. Yeah. And I think that ties in to what we said about mats, is like, that's when I have to be aware, oh, okay, it's my choice if I'm going to draw near to God today, if I'm going to be still. Right. So, yeah, that it's convicting for me, but I think it's also inspiring. It's like life is going to continue to be hard even after we get out of the pandemic. Something else is going to happen. Sure. Or, there's always something around the corner, but I can still seek joy in the midst of that.
And that's such a refreshing thing for this time. I mean, no matter where we're at, culturally, personally, societally, like the availability of joy because of the coming of Jesus is like just such a present, such a gift. Yeah. And so, Adam, thanks so much for sharing all this with us.
For sure.
And if you haven't checked him out yet, go check him out on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Listen to everyone else's at full speed, but Adam's at half speed.
Please.
Thanks so much. Go check him out. See you soon.
See ya.